Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Our topic today is all of the Suitcase Nuke Prophecies that God has sent to the Prophecy Club since 1998. And that's a picture of what might really be what a suitcase nuke looks like. Doesn't destroy the whole city, but it comes pretty close to destroying a whole city. And I want to remind you that these are the active prophecies that we are following. Some 35 prophecies from suitcase nukes. 17 say that a meteor, tsunami, earthquake is going to hit. 14 say there's going to be a food shortage, and for that we'll send you to josephkitchen.com. 11 say that the dollar is going to fall, and for that we'll send you to prophecyclubgold.com or prophecyclubbar.com. 7 say that we're going to be hit with a surprise Russian nuclear attack that destroys America in 1 hour. 2 say that there's no gasoline coming. Now, for those of you that want to have more of some secular information proving that these suitcase nukes exist, there you go. Now, that's kind of hard to read, so I put the text of it up here where we can read it. This is from Frontline, a PBS organization. In 1997, the public became aware of a Russian nuclear device they had not known even existed, the so-called suitcase bomb. These devices were made for the Soviet KGB. One of these bombs had an explosive charge of 1 kiloton, equivalent to 1,000 tons of TNT. If a device like this made its way into the U.S., it could destroy everything within a half-mile radius of the Capitol in Washington, D.C. within hours. Prevailing winds would carry the nuclear fallout throughout Washington. In the 1960s, the U.S. built its own version of a mini-nuclear device called the Special Atomic Demolition Munition, or SATM. It weighed 80 to 100 pounds, was small enough to fit in a duffel bag or a large case, and was designed for sabotage missions, airfields, bridges, dams, like the Russian device. It had an explosive charge of roughly 1,000 tons of TNT, or 1 kiloton. Now, compare that to Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Those were 4 and 9 kilotons, according to the source that I looked up. Now, this is more recent, 2007. NBC News. Suitcase nuclear weapons, ? Probably a myth. Well, I would say, hopefully, a myth. I don't want to see this come. But at the same time it's coming, I want to know the truth. Members of Congress have warned about the dangers of suitcase nuclear weapons. Hollywood has made television shows and movies about them. Even the Federal Emergency Management Agency has alerted Americans to the threat. Information the White House includes on its website. But government experts and intelligence officials say such a threat gets vastly more attention than it deserves. These officials said a true suitcase nuke would be highly complex to produce, would require significant upkeep, and cost a small fortune. Counter-proliferation authorities do not completely rule out the possibility that these portable devices once existed, but they do not think the threat remains. I hope they're right, but what I'm going to show you today is saying they're probably wrong, sadly. Vahid Majidi, the Assistant Director of the FBI's Weapons of Mass Destruction Directorate, says, no one has been able to truly identify the existence of these devices. Yet, Hollywood has seized on the threat. For example, the Fox thriller 24 devoted its entire last season to Jack Bauer's hunt for suitcase nukes in Los Angeles. Government officials have played up to the threat, too. Senator Byron Searle, Democrat from North Dakota, once said at a hearing that he thought the least likely threat was from an intercontinental ballistic missile. Perhaps the most likely threat is from suitcase nuclear weapons in a rusty car on a dock in New York City. In a FEMA guide on terrorist disasters that is posted in part at the White House website, the agency warns that terrorist use of the nuclear weapon would probably be limited to a single, smaller suitcase weapon. The area and severity of the effects would be significantly more limited. During the 60s, intelligence agencies received reports from defectors that Soviet military intelligence officers were carrying portable nuclear devices in suitcases. The genie was never put back in the bottle. No U.S. officials have seen a Soviet-made suitcase nuke, but I'm going to show you a picture of one. The idea of portable nuclear devices was not a new one. In the 50s and 60s, the U.S. made the first ones, known as Special Atomic Demolition Munition, or it was a backpack nuke that could be used to blow up dams, tunnels, bridges, and the like. These devices were never used and now exist, minus their explosive contents, today only in a museum, they say. I hope. Following the U.S. lead, the Soviets are believed to have made similar nuclear devices. Suitcase nukes have been a separate problem. They attracted considerable attention in 1997 thanks to a 60 Minutes interview and other public statements from a retired General Alexander Lebed, once Russia's national security chief. Lebed said that the separate government in Chechnya had portable nuclear devices, which led him to create a commission to get to the bottom of the Chechen arsenal. According to the Center for Nonproliferation Studies report, he said that when he ran the security service, the commission could find only 48 of the 132 devices. The numbers varied as he changed his story several times. Sometimes he stated that 100 or more were missing. The Russians denied he was ever accurate. Even more details emerged in the summer of '98 when former Russian military officer Stanislav Lunev, a defector in the U.S. Witness Protection Program, wrote in his book that Russian agents were hiding suitcase nukes around the U.S. for use in a possible future conflict. I invited Stanislav Lunev to come to the Prophecy Club to speak to our group and to make a DVD about his experiences. More on that in just a moment. Yes, and believe that a true suitcase nuke would be too expensive for most countries to produce and would not last more than several months because the nuclear core would decompose so quickly. Nobody at the present stage seeks to develop such devices. Some members of Congress remain convinced that the suitcase nuke problem persists. Perhaps chief among these lawmakers was Curt Weldon. I'm going to show you a picture of his book. I've got it in the bookcase right behind me. Curt Weldon, a GOP representative from Pennsylvania who lost his seat in 2006. Majidi says it would take about 22 pounds of plutonium or 130 pounds of uranium to create a nuclear detonation. Both would require explosives to set off the blast, but significantly more than the uranium. Although uranium is considered easier for terrorists to obtain, it would be too heavy for one person to lug around in a suitcase. Plutonium, however, would require the cooperation of a state with a plutonium reprocessing program. It seems highly unlikely that a country would knowingly cooperate with terrorists because the device would bear the chemical fingerprints of that government. I don't think any nation is willing to participate in this type of activity, Majidi said. That means the fissile material probably would have to be stolen. It is very difficult for that much material to be stolen. There is one more wrinkle. Nuclear devices require a lot of maintenance because the material that makes them so deadly also can wreak havoc on their electrical systems. The more compact the devices, guess what? The more frequently they need to be maintained. Everything is compactly designed around the radiation source, which damages everything over a period of time. In the case of suitcase nukes, one official said, U.S. experts do not have 100% certainty that they have a handle on the Russian arsenal. Lori Holgate, a vice president of the Nuclear Threat Initiative, says, the U.S. has not appropriately prioritized its responses to the nuclear threat and, as a result, is poorly using its scarce resources. What does she mean? Much to many people's surprise, she noted, highly enriched uranium outside of a weapon is so benign that a person can hold it in its hands and not face any ill effects until years later, if at all. It can also slip through U.S. safeguards, so they're not agreeing on how dangerous these things are. The Homeland Security Department is planning to spend more than $1 billion on radiation detectors at ports of entry. But government auditors found that the devices cannot distinguish between benign radiation sources, such as kitty litter, and potentially dangerous ones, including highly enriched uranium. In other words, they can sneak them in, and they don't know they're coming in. Holgate considers the substance the greatest threat because it exists not only at nuclear weapons sites worldwide, but also in more than 100 civilian research facilities in dozens of countries, often with inadequate security. You don't say. Suitcase nukes. All right, so here we go. Buckle up. We're about to talk about what God says. And of course, I understand that a lot of people say, yeah, well, this is a dream. Well, the Bible says that God speaks to us in dreams. I mean, look at Daniel. I mean, look at the whole book of Revelation is one big long vision. So God does speak to us if we're clean enough. So let's start with Alexander Lebed, former Russian national security advisor. In an interview, CBS News Magazine, 60 Minutes, on 7 September 1997, he claimed that the Russian military had lost track of more than 100 out of the total of 250 suitcase-sized nuclear bombs designed for sabotage. And they are not under the control of the armed forces of Russia. They lost them. Could it be that the Moloch, Baal worshippers, the people that got Moses so angry when he came down off of Mount Sinai with the Ten Commandments in his hand? Could it be that these people that have ruled the pharaohs and pretty much the planet behind the scenes since time began, since Adam and Eve ate of the fruit, could it be that they have use for them? The government of the Russian Federation rejected Lebed's claims and stated that such weapons had never been created. So anyway, we had Colonel Stanislav Lunev, the highest-ranking Russian military officer ever to defect from Russia. I met him. I had lunch with him. I shook his hand. I invited him to speak, and he made a DVD, which you can now watch instantly, called The Russian Defector Warns America. You watch that at watchprophecyclub.com. And I think that was available watch free. You can go right there right now and watch it. Watchprophecyclub.com. So you can watch him, and there you go. There's a picture of him, and there's a picture of a suitcase nuke. Here is a short video of me introducing him.
Our speaker tonight spent 30 years in the Russian military, Soviet military he likes to call it, 20 years as a strategic military officer. He obtained the rank of colonel. Will you help me welcome Colonel Stanislav Lunev?
Thank you. Thank you, Stan, for invitation, for introduction.
Then, May 5th, 2003, Michael Boldea, the grandson of Dmitry Duduman, had a dream, and he was visited by his grandfather, Dmitry Duduman, and he was shown suitcase nukes going off in California, Illinois, Michigan, Arizona, Washington State, Florida, and New York. He said, I saw the outline of the states taking place. I saw small lights begin to flicker on and off in some of the states. I recognized California, Illinois, Michigan, Arizona, Washington State, Florida, and New York. I said, I don't understand. What does this mean? Demetrius said to him, these are the places where those who are sent here long ago to bring fear and cause chaos have situated themselves. They lie in wait, planning and plotting destruction. They are as coiled serpents looking forward to the hour when they will be loosed upon this nation. But if God's children pray, once more he will delay the season of sorrow that is yet to come. By my count, he's already delayed that season of sorrow at least 3 times. I asked Michael specifically on the phone, do those look like big suitcase, or the suitcase nukes are the big bombs like come in missiles? He said, no, they look small like suitcase nuke bombs. So then, October 15, 2004, the same guy, Michael Boldea, in another dream that is summarized as the eagle and the serpents, Michael Boldea was shown an eagle that was killed by 3 serpents. He says, suddenly a snake seemed out of the nowhere. A brown snake, which he said represented 9/11, lunged at the eagle, America, and bit down on his left wing, and the snake's strike was very quick and precise. The eagle reacted without delay, clawing and pecking at the snake, cutting out deep wounds in the underbelly, trying to defend itself and ward off the serpent. Just as it seemed the eagle was winning the battle, does that sound like about right now? And the serpent was retreating, another serpent appeared with red and black diagonal stripes covering its body without hesitation, struck out at the eagle's right wing, biting down and refusing to release. After a momentary tug of war, the serpent tore off flesh and feathers, leaving a large wound on the eagle's right wing. The second bite was much worse than the first, and for an instant the eagle was stunned. Now, I believe the second bite is Suitcase Nukes. And for an instant the eagle was stunned. Then a serpent much larger than the previous two, made of many nations or many colors, slithered toward the eagle, opened its jaws, lunged, taking the whole of the eagle's head in its mouth before biting down. He says, this has been revealed to you so that you may know that the first bite has been, or 9/11. The second is yet to come, I think the Suitcase Nukes. And the third will be its destruction when Russia hits us with massive, from submarines, coming down from the sky, big missiles that destroy us in 1 hour, Revelation 18 says. I need to also share something with you. He said the second bite seemed to come from an unexpected place. See, with Suitcase Nukes, there's nothing flying through the air. Okay, there's no warning. It's just boom. Where'd that come from? Well, actually, it was made back in the 60s and 70s and 80s and probably brought into the U.S. in the 80s. It's been here that long. Now, let's go to January 9th. So, as I was falling to sleep on January 9th, 2005, I asked the Lord to show me what is the next 9/11 attack. That kind of fit with the other dream that he had. And I was shown a series of suitcase nuclear explosions all across America. And I was told international bankers would use sophisticated bombs and experts in several cities, with one hitting a regional bank, destroying the records and their backups. This would put billions of dollars into their hands while throwing the U.S. economy into a free fall. Made a DVD on it. You can watch that at Watch Prophecy Club too. Then in 2005, former Congressman Kurt Weldon, vice chairman of the House Armed Services Committee, uncovered a plot to set explosions in 10 cities. When he couldn't get the authorities to act, he published the information in a book entitled Countdown to Terror. I've got that in the bookcase behind me too. He says the Countdown to Terror shows that 10 cities were affected. Valdez, Alaska, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Boston, New York, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Chicago, Miami, and Houston. Then in 2013, now why am I showing you so many of these? The Bible says, in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let a thing be established. So if one person has a dream that says suitcase nukes are coming, you go, yeah. If 2 people have a dream, you're supposed to say, huh? You're supposed to listen. But when I got 35 different people, very credible people. Okay, so how is it that 35 different people came up with the same thing, saying that suitcase nukes are going to be hitting, many of them saying the same cities? February 2013, Doug Metzger made a Prophecy Club DVD. Also, you can watch that at watchprophecyclub.com. Will You Survive America's Fall? In which he reports that he was shown a vision of suitcase nukes hitting, listen to the cities, Los Angeles, New York, Las Vegas, Washington, D.C., Chicago, San Francisco, Houston, Seattle, Orlando, Dallas, Atlanta, and Denver. Now, you'll probably notice many of those are the same cities. Then in 2018, Frances Kruger had a vision. She said, I was standing on a high mountain in this vision with some other people in the Ozark Mountains, and I looked forward, northbound, and I could see all the way up to the border of Canada. I looked to my right, and I could see clearly all the way to New York, and I looked to the lower mount right side, and I could see all the land all the way down to Florida. To my left side, I could see all the land of California, the Pacific coastline. Suddenly, I saw the 1 o'clock positions, a tall gray plume of smoke swirling from the ground up to the sky. Suddenly, a big modern city appeared, New York. Suddenly, I heard millions upon millions of screams of men, women, and children going counterclockwise. I saw another huge gray plume of smoke start to rise from the center of a huge modern city. This was at the 12 o'clock position. What city was it? Chicago. Or some other city. Again, I heard the terrifying screams of the masses, millions upon millions screaming. I was trying to comprehend what I was seeing no sooner than that when I suddenly, to my left, at the 11 o'clock position, I saw a huge charcoal gray colored plume of swirling smoke rising from the center of a city that I instantly understood to be San Francisco. I heard the horrible, terrifying screams of millions upon millions coming from that direction. Suddenly, another huge plume of gray smoke started rising from the center of the city. In the 9 o'clock position, I took that to mean Los Angeles. That great city was attacked by something causing this huge, great, gray-colored plume. I heard the terrifying screams of men, women, and children suddenly from the east. From the East Coast all the way to California, I heard the screams of all the nation. I didn't see what caused these plumes of twirling smoke. Suddenly I heard the screaming of one woman. Now, why couldn't they see what caused them? Why couldn't they see missiles flying through the air? Because there weren't any missiles. These were secreted into America in the 80s. Jump to another person, Chris Shepard, 2020. I heard the words, "Come up here. I want to show you something you asked to see." Instantly, I'm standing on a cloud. Walk over to the edge and look down. Okay, Lord. I walk over, I look down, and I'm seeing the 48 continental states, Canada, and Mexico are covered by clouds. I say, "This is cool, Lord. What am I to see?" Pay attention and watch. I saw a mushroom cloud form over Seattle, then Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Dallas, Chicago, New York, Washington, D.C., then Miami. Now, if you want your car to start, here's how you do it. Go to EMP Shield and you want to get you one of these. Put in the promo code PROPHECY and it'll get you a $50 discount and helps your prophecy club. But they'll have video up there to show you. The black goes to the black wire of your battery, red to the red side, the green goes to the body. Takes you about 10 minutes. You just peel off the back, stick it under the hood, hook it up. And the point is when everybody else's computer, the computers in their cars die, the computers at home die, you can put one in your cars, one in your house. This is supposed to stop the EMP from frying all your computer chips. If it fries all the computer chips in your car, you can sleep in it. Or you can hook up a couple of horses in front of it and pull it, but it's dead. Same thing with your home, your computers in your home, refrigerators. These days, everything runs by a computer chip. If you want your computer chips not to be fried, there you go. All right, let's move on. There were no planes, missiles, but I knew there were nukes. Then several smaller explosions, several major cities went off all over. But small towns and country areas were not touched. I could feel that millions of souls died in the screams, and I won't soon forget. I never saw troops moving or hear any warning signs. There was no warning signs. After this, I saw America begin to quake. It split open like the Grand Canyon, but bigger. It split from the Great Lakes down the Ohio River to the Gulf of Mexico. What happened? We believe that we have 12 prophecies that says that if America splits Israel, God will split America. And my suspicion is at the conclusion of the October 7th, 2023 attack on Israel, we'll conclude with them giving the Palestinians a state. Leslie was told the newspaper headline will be Omer ushers in Palestinian state. The next headline will be Catastrophe hits America, which we believe to be that, a New Madrid fault, as Shane Warren and several others. I've got 12 prophecies saying that's going to happen. So a lot of these events are intertwangled, okay? It's split open like a Grand Canyon, but bigger. It's split from the Great Lakes down to the Ohio River to the Gulf of Mexico. It was at this point I realized what I was seeing and cried out for mercy. This must happen. It cannot be stopped. The voice responded. In other words, God is saying these things are going to come. The next scene seemed like some time passed, but I'm not sure how long. I saw a massive tidal wave hit the East Coast. I saw the bottom half of California break off and sink into the ocean, and quakes hit several places. Subs started popping up on both coasts. Then there was no rapture in the dream, and everyone was caught unaware. Then the clouds rushed in and blocked my view, and I started to wake up. But I asked, when will this happen? Soon, was all I heard. So we have a few sponsors here. If you're looking for gold, go to prophecyclubgold.com. If you're looking for a little piece of gold or silver you can put in your billfold of your purse, prophecyclubbar.com. If you need food, survival food, go to josephskitchen.com. If you're looking for a satellite phone, where's my satellite phone? Oh, it's over there. Sat123.com and EMPShield.com, promo code prophecy. Let's keep going. So this is 2020 Dana Coverstone. I saw a calendar. Now, this sounded like it was going to happen in 2020. We were watching for it to happen in 2020, but it didn't come in 2020. Now, as I read this, you're probably going to say, this sounds like it's going to happen in 2024. Now, hang on. It sounds like it, but then it sounded like it in 2022. So I don't know. But let's watch. I saw a calendar. It was turned to the month of November and had shadows flickering all over it. I first saw a light in the sky, a very large, bright light, then darkness. Why the darkness? Because it's a suitcase nuke that sends out an EMP that fries all the computer chips. It overcharges them, and once they're overcharged, they're dead. They're not coming back to life. Your car's dead. Your computer's dead. It's not going to start. I began to make out through the dawn's haze and the fog that many Americans were in emergency shelters. There seemed to be snow on the ground, but it was this dirty gray, almost like ash. What did the other people say? They saw a gray plume of ash or smoke. Okay. There were people huddled together and shivering. Individuals were lying on cots, suitcases all over the place, desperate looks on the faces of most everyone. But there were encouragers in the crowds. That's us. Those that knew this was coming and were prepared. But you get prepared, okay? There were encouragers in the crowds, all wearing crosses, and they stood out emotionally from everyone else because they had hope. They had smiles on their faces. They were checking on people and trying to show patience and kindness. But there were at times they were met with anger and told to go away, but the encouragers just kept doing what they were doing despite the manifested upset of several in the shelters. Some businesses were shuttered in the bigger cities. And I saw gas stations that looked like they just walked away from. Why? Because the computer chips fried all of their cars. Cars don't start, don't need gasoline, okay? I saw headlines that read, "Shock and awe in the U.S." as one that read, "UN steps in to help host nation." There was a large amount of quiet over the country, almost as if it had not awakened fully from a bad dream. The nation was fitful and suspicious and leery of what was coming next, very hesitant. The white figure, that would be the angel that comes to him, the white figure came and said, "Remain braced as this calm comes before a gathering storm. That recovery will have a hard time finding," then repeated. "Remain braced as this calm," means the 2020 calm, "comes before a gathering storm that recovery will have a hard time finding," meaning this is going to be bad. It's going to be hard to recover from this. Then, a couple of months later, he has another one. This is a different one. It's a little similar, but it's different. I saw the calendar of December. Now, this one back here, he saw in November. And watch this one. Now he's seeing what happens in December. Again, we watched for this in 2020. It didn't come in 2020. I saw the calendar in December. I saw a finger underlined slowly, like it was pushing slowly and forcefully under the line of the name December. And it flipped over to January, then it underlined it just as slow and pushing. The vision started. The first vision I saw was long food lines. I saw people waiting for what seemed like hours, standing in line, not in cars. Why? Cars don't start. Computer chips fried. Here you go. Here's your solution. You were told about it. I saw people waiting for what seemed like hours, standing in line, not in cars. I saw this throughout the nation. I saw ships and ports on both the east and west coast that were just sitting idle. Why? Because America is shut down. No one is buying their goods anymore. Just sitting idle, nothing moving at sea. I saw the headline that said the Baltic Dry Index is dead. Baltic Dry Index is what tracks ships moving across the sea. They said that nothing was moving in trade around the world. I noted that there were no Christmas lights. This was December, and there were no holiday displays. Now, wait a minute. I know. It sounds like it could be 2024, and it could be 2024. But if it doesn't happen in 2024, don't just throw it out the window. Okay, it's still coming. I noted there were no Christmas lights. This was December, and there were no holiday displays. There were no sales. There were no sales mentioned, Christmas lights, no Christmas displays, no Santa Claus, no Easter, no Christmas type things going on at all. It was a great sadness over the land. People seemed very dazed and very confused. But there were Christians who stood out because they had faith. They had hope in Christ. They looked like burning charcoal. They were carrying torches wherever they went. A lot of people rejected their approach, but they just kept their faith. They didn't back down from telling people about Jesus. They kept telling people that they desperately need Jesus at this moment. They said, you need Jesus now, you need Jesus now, you need Jesus now. Don't wait. Don't wait. You don't have until tomorrow. You need Jesus now. A lot of the message was rejected. But there were some that were coming, surrendering and praying and being saved. That's the good news in all of this. I saw what looked like shopping malls that had been converted into shelters or living quarters. Like after the Hurricane Katrina, people sheltered in football stadiums. The businesses in those shopping malls were all shuttered. I saw people in cots. I saw food outreaches. I saw people who were misplaced. Not like a homeless shelter. This was like something bad had happened and people were in shelters. I continued to see shuttered properties. I saw people in homes wearing coats with closed curtains. That's the wintertime. That has been a constant in these visions. People inside their homes looking out what's going on. Why? Inside their homes for fear of what's out there, fear of hoodlums. Also inside their homes to stay warm because outside is a lot colder than it is inside their home that doesn't have electricity. When I look at people looking at their curtains, I see more of this dark gray snow-like stuff. I talked to him about this. He said, no, I never heard anything about any suitcase nukes. Snow-like stuff on the road. It wasn't white, pure snow like after a fresh snowfall. Then I saw headlines reading, nationwide outages plague the Southwest. Another headline said, which, by the way, if you go to sat123.com, sat123.com, they can show you how to get solar generators, give you some kind of electricity during an outage like that. Nationwide, promo code prophecy. Nationwide outages plague the Southwest. Another headline, Americans don't know who to blame for the darkness. Why? Because there was no missiles coming down. It's put here years ago. Some of the darkness stretched into Canada. It stretched north into Canada, but it was not everywhere. I saw America with the lights flickering. It was like the whole country outline of the United States of America, including Alaska and Hawaii. It was like, right before it goes out, it flickers and starts flashing. It looked like America was like a light bulb about to go out, meaning our electrical grid in some places came on, went off and on and off. They're trying to get it back on as best they can. Then I saw vultures with food hanging out of their mouth. These vultures were heavy and fat with rotting food hanging out of their mouths. Why? Because the electricity went off. Because it not only fried the computer chips in the cars and the computers, but also our electrical grid goes down. And when the electricity goes off, everybody can eat lots of food for 2 or 3 days, maybe a week. And then it reaches room temperature, then it goes to rotting, and then they have to throw it out. That's what he's saying. I saw depression as a creature with a face mask and a smile, but it was choking people, pushing them down to the ground. And I saw the St. Louis Arch, and I saw people standing under the St. Louis Arch wearing very expensive business suits and expensive watches. Now, these are the guys that have, set, and detonate the suitcase nukes. At their feet were large briefcases that reminded me of nuclear suitcases. He said nuclear suitcases. He didn't know that there was such a thing as a suitcase nuke. Suddenly, all their alarms went off at the same time, and they grabbed their briefcases, jumped into black SUVs, and drove off in all directions. I noticed each one of them had a Wall Street Journal newspaper under their arms and dark suitcases. Then I saw more headlines about market crashes, yields lost. One of the headlines declared sympathy for the swastika, in other words, communism. I saw tired crowds. Many had lost resolve to fight. But groups of Christians were going around spreading hope, saying, remember Jesus, had to flee in the winter, and kept encouraging people with faith. I saw lights all over the country. These lights were churches. These churches were keeping warmth and hope in their communities. Then the white figure arose out of one of those lights and said, brace yourself, brace yourself on the word and my promises. Do not rely on your own strength. Let me just take a second. Stan, what do you think is going on here? Right after Trump won the election, very next morning, I was out running errands, likewise Leslie was, and I called her on the cell phone, and I said, is the sun a little brighter where you are? And she said, yes, it is. I said, well, it certainly seems a little brighter here. See, we Christians are rejoicing because in the natural, by our own natural means, we think we got a great victory. But what we have not done as a nation is turn to Jesus. We've not stopped sinning. I don't see churches full. I don't see people repenting. I don't see tears. I don't see people changing their lives. This is a nation that's trying to fix itself by itself. Self didn't raise up America. Self isn't going to fix America. 2 Chronicles 7:14 says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and seek my face and pray and turn from the wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven. I'll forgive their sins and heal their land. We haven't done that. The devil is not going to go quietly in the night. When we take over his finances, that's about to happen. When we take him and kick him out of government, which is now happening, he's going to respond. This is his response. Let's go on. Now let's jump to Jason Meeks, 2021. In the dream, I was lifted up in the sky, and I saw an outline of the north half of the state of Texas, and then the southern portions of Oklahoma. I saw 3 small nuclear detonations. Since I've never been to Texas, I had to look at a map. 2 of these detonations were Dallas and Fort Worth. The other was Lubbock. After the explosions, I saw people walking, no cars on the road. They all say that, okay? People were walking to the cities for refuge, food, water, safety, and the basics of life for their families. Then let's jump to Elizabeth Murray, 2021. In this dream, I was at a mountain resort, and I felt what I thought was an earthquake as my bed rattled. The scene then changed to the next morning. I went down to the lobby, and crowds of people were standing around. And I asked people if they felt an earthquake, but no one even cared. Then the reception called me over to the front desk and whispered, there was an attack on the city from inside the United States. I realized it was actually an explosion, not an earthquake, and out of my mouth came the words, there will be 7 more attacks. The scene changed to later in the day. By this time, word had gotten out about the attack in the city. People were panicking, running to the cars, but the electronically locked doors would not open on some, and none of the cars would start. I realized that an EMP blast had hit. Now, let me just point out something. So they're up in the mountains. They're quite a ways from a suitcase nuke going off, yet it still fried all the computer chips in their cars. The little key fob wouldn't even open the cars. I sensed it could involve many cities. It's going to be probably many cities, not necessarily 7 or 8. Now, let me point out something. These are rumors. I can't prove what I'm about to say here, but the rumor is that Abraham Lincoln was killed because he was coming against the banking cabal. JFK killed because he was going to stop the elite banking system. Muammar Gaddafi was killed because he was selling oil in another currency other than the dollar. Saddam Hussein was also killed because he was going around the dollar to sell Iraqi oil, and Donald Trump is about to do the same thing. He's about to shut down their financial system, shut down their world. He's coming against the deep state, and he's removing their government cronies. That's the reason they tried to kill him twice. On 7/30/21, Jason Meeks. This is one of the most important ones. The dream starts out, we stopped at an ATM machine to get some cash for the toll road. I put in my card, got $20 out, and ended the transaction, but before I pulled off, I realized I needed more cash, so I put my card back in, got another $20, but the fee on the receipt was now $42 instead of $1 or $2. The transactions were within seconds of each other. What's that saying? It's saying that the financial system was just rendered out of the hands of the international bankers, out of the hands of the Federal Reserve, and a new banking system was implemented. That's a key. As we drove back home, we stopped at a major bank. The television screens were showing massive arrests. An alert went out on my cell phone that DJT was assuming control as the new president. I expected people would be rioting and looting, but people were happy, celebrating in the streets, almost like after a world war. In the dream, a man came to me and started crying, saying all of his evil bosses at the bank had been arrested and rounded up, saying that he was now in charge of the bank. He was a Christian. He'd been praying for this to happen for years. As people took to the streets in victory, this is key. Now, we've not seen this yet. But could this happen sometime on or before January 21st? As the people took to the streets in victory and celebration, we joined in. We jumped on the back of a fire truck to catch the ride and the parade because the streets were so full you couldn't even walk. Everything was amazing. Then I heard a huge explosion. A suitcase nuke had been detonated within the city. I didn't see the explosion, but I saw the shock waves from it. We jumped off the truck, ran into a restaurant for a little bit of protection, but we were far enough away, no problem, just windows broken, more like an earthquake. Then an alert came over my cell phone saying, nuclear emergency, shelter in place. We were scared, but alive. What'd that say? Saying that when there's a new financial system, when they're rejoicing in the streets over Donald Trump, a suitcase nuke goes off. Let's go on. The cities were saved. Christians, mostly are people who at least listen to the gospel, even if they didn't fully understand. The people were helping each other and sharing the resources. The yet to be saved were not eager to share, but they did so because for their safety, their own families, they could stay within the city if they followed the rules. When everyone entered the city, they were given a copy of the Ten Commandments and told to learn and follow them if they wanted to stay. There was no army or men with machine guns patrolling, keeping watch, just a few sheriffs and manageable-sized groups. There were no courts or judges. Sheriffs kept order, having a pistol on their duty belt. Sheriffs were godly men, did not allow two sets of rules. All were treated equal and fair. Everyone knew the sheriff's word was final. Although the sheriffs were very godly men and very kind, the yet to be saved were nervous around them because they did not want to be forced to leave the city. They did not speak to the sheriff unless spoken to, meaning there's safety in the cities. Now, Tracy Meeks, 2022. I was in my childhood neighborhood. People were walking as normal. I saw an airport control tower in the distance, and a huge flash filled the sky, and everything in all directions went dark. No electricity anywhere. People started panic running. I said out loud, well, that must be an EMP blast. It took out all the electronics. Several people ran into a house for shelter. There were men, women, and children with me. After a while, we ventured out. We finally reached a house that had electricity. The scene changed to my childhood home. A security officer was standing on the top of the garage, a group of people running, trying to escape. Then the thought came to me, that must be the mass arrests. Do you hear something similar in this story? Do you hear kind of the same things coming out in all of the dreams and visions? Let's go on. Byron Searle. While in prayer today, I had a vision. I was taken up above the United States. The first city I saw was New York City, a very large city. And as I'm looking down on it, I hear the Lord say, it is full of every abomination known to man. Then suddenly, all at once, I see 8 bright flashes. I can see these flashes form a large circle around the main financial district. I see 8 mushroom clouds rising above. Everything that had been within that circle was now gone. All is rubble and on fire. Then I asked the Lord what caused this, and he said, suitcase nuclear devices. All 8 had exploded at the exact time. As I was still watching the scene, suddenly I saw the bull from the Wall Street fly right past me. That's Moloch. That is their bull that represents. Remember when Moses came down off of Mount Sinai with the Ten Commandments, he looked down, they were worshiping a molten calf? That's Moloch. that represents the people that rule the world. My attention then turned from New York City towards the west, and I now am above Chicago. Again, I see more bright flashes. This time, there are 5 of them. And I then see a mushroom cloud, and I'm turned towards the south and taken to Miami with 2 bright flashes, then west to Dallas, where I see 2 more bright flashes. From there, I'm brought further west to see 2 more bright flashes in Las Vegas. Continuing westward, I'm then over Los Angeles, where I see another 8 bright flashes occur. Then up north to Seattle, where I see 4 bright flashes and mushroom clouds. The vision ended, and the Lord spoke. My son, you have seen what evil men of this world have planned to do to bring about my judgments on Mystery Babylon, America. The cities represent the centers of commerce and financial glory. They represent the sin and decadence of the nation that refuses to repent. These suitcase nukes have been in this nation for many years, awaiting my timing, and I say, repent now. For when these explode, you will be standing before me in an instant. Repent now. Though these bombs are not big, they are very powerful. All within the area will be destroyed. My hand has held back the men who will detonate these devices, but no more. These evil men are now planning to destroy this nation and bring these people into captivity. Now, let's talk about massive arrests, because that ties into it. You've heard that mentioned several times in the other ones. Now let's jump to part of what Terry Bennett was shown. I saw in the governmental area will go through a dramatic change in our government, and there will be a time of anarchy and chaos. For a while, we'll have a fractional government, which means basically our government come down to the state level because the military will step in and have to seize control of our federal government. You'd call it a coup, but in all honesty, it'll be to help our nation. That's why the military will step in. Then, Barry Wunsch, 2021. I woke up at 1:30 and I saw the front cover of a newspaper that said, "Victory. Donald John Trump sweeps the nation." I looked up, and those exact words I could not find in a newspaper headline. But that's accurate. That's what happened. It was time for the nation to celebrate like after a time of war. The celebration comes. Same thing the other guy saw. I saw masses of people coming out onto the streets with American flags celebrating. There was still some work to be done. There was still some high tension in the air. Then I was taken to a fence line outside of the White House, and I saw a huge crowd gathering. The American people came out onto the streets to see what was going on. I saw people who had been conspired and engineered evils surrounded inside the White House with nowhere to run, nowhere to escape. It was the end for them. I saw military troops supporting for safety enter the White House and other buildings and escort out the evil ones, just like prisoners of war brought out in front of the lawn of the White House, lined up row upon row in handcuffs and shackles. You think that's embarrassing? You think the devil is embarrassed with that? I do. What do you think he's going to do? You think he's going to do nothing? Not when he has suitcase nukes. I suspect that when he sees this, he says, all right, go ahead and set him off. I think God lets him because of our sin. Their day was over. The crowd cheered. You see, we would be cheering for that just like we're cheering right now for Donald Trump winning. But the problem is, it's about to be short-lived. Their day was over. The crowd cheered with great outbursts as each group was brought out and put on display. The people in the streets cheered as evil was being dealt with. The patriots were singing anthems and songs of victory in the streets, giving thanks unto God. All the corrupted ones were extracted and marched into the streets, surrounded by army, marching them through the streets in humiliation. They were about to face the consequences for all of their evil and corruption. They were brought into a portal holding area like a mobile army base. Why army base? Because it's not the civil, it's not the police, it's not the sheriffs arresting them. It's the military, the Marines, okay? And for them to try them, they have to take them onto a military base. They're arrested by military, they're tried by military in military tribunals, where it is swift, hard justice. Like a mobile army base unit for processing to face righteous judges. They were going trial, facing justice for the highest of consequences. And they would get all that had coming to them for their crimes against humanity. And let me say something. The The dreams and visions we've read give us a picture of as they're in streets in their celebration is when the suitcase nukes go off. I personally, based upon some other things, suspect we have 6 months to a year between rejoicing in the streets and the suitcase nukes going off. So don't necessarily think that it happens the same day, but at the same time, don't rule it out, okay? We don't know. I'm taken then to the inauguration ceremony for DJT. Surrounded by military, DJT is inaugurated as President of the United States. There was no showboating. This was serious business. The job was finished and time to heal and rebuild. I saw the public opposed to DJT instantly see the truth that they could no longer deny. They could now see the evil that had been done by these corrupt ones, and that spirit of anarchy in them had been broken. Now let me explain. The scuttlebutt on the internet is that when the arrests take place, that they have an 8-hour video showing all the dastardly deeds and how these people have been caught with their hand in the cookie jar, and they're going to require that to be played on everything. Radio, TV, internet, every place, on a 3-time loop, 8 hours, 3 times a day for 10 days, so that everybody can see all the bad things these people did. Now, at least that's what I've heard the plan is. That fits with the prophecy. Let's go on. I saw big military cargo planes, open ramps, and special teams from the United States loaded pallets of legal documents departing to other nations to go and do likewise to their foreign dignitaries, awaiting the arrival in other nations. In other words, not just happening just America. Plans were strategically set in place to arrest and bring foreign corrupt leaders to justice. The world will never be the same. I watched them deploy into nation after nation, and they rejoiced in the streets as justice was served, and freedom, truth, and righteousness flowed like waters. Those who were left standing had a great reward. It was revival time, a time to heal, so great things are coming. Now, this was said to Benjamin Fulford by the elite, the evil elite. We have been ruling this planet for thousands of years, and we'll destroy it rather than give it up. I'm not kidding. Okay, so they see that Donald Trump, they see the Republicans taking charge, and that makes perfect sense. Maybe it doesn't happen the same day. Hopefully it's 6 months, at least a year later, but he's not just going to lay down and roll over. He's not going to just let it go by with nothing happening. So this is a list, which I'm going to leave up for a minute. List of the cities to be suitcase nuked according to the prophecies. You might scan through that. If your city is on that list, then I would recommend you do a couple of things, which I'm about to cover. Okay, scan through the list. You're looking for your city or a city near you. Let's go on. Again, EMP Shield. And our list of sponsors, which I'll go ahead and pass by. A couple more things, we're about done. So then in 2021, dream from Dana Coverstone again. The room darkened, this is only part of it, and the screen revealed running taglines saying things like, avoid the unvaccinated. By the way, this is not necessarily the past. This is probably still coming in the future. These people are dangerous. Please inform authorities of all sightings. Now skipping. He says, I'm marking those who are mine, and I will walk beside them in the fire. Even though some of you here in this country will meet me soon on the other side. So if some 10, 15, 20, 30, 35, we don't know how many suitcases, those all go off pretty much the same time, rest assured there's going to be some good Christians going that too. That's what he's talking about. Then the angel grabbed my hand and squeezed it until I could feel goodness and virtue coming out of him. Then he said, be faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. Now, I'm going to close with this. So I'm recording this on a Sunday evening at 6:49 p.m. 11/10/2024. Yesterday afternoon, I was taking a nap. I woke up at about 2:33 p.m. Here's the situation. Before I went to sleep, I asked in my heart, not out loud where the devil can hear, only in my heart. I said, Lord, you've not spoken to me in a dream in a long time. Please tell me more about the suitcase nukes, preferably when they are coming. And I awakened to hear 2 words, medical, medical. And they were screamed at me. It was like a trumpet. I mean, it was loud. Now, I meant to bring the data. Back in 2021, I also woke up out of a nap and I heard two words: massive arrests, massive arrests. So in my spirit, I'm convinced two things are coming. One is, yes, the massive arrests are coming. But when he says medical, medical, what do you mean by medical, medical? I'm a pastor. I'm a prophecy teacher. I'm not a medical guy. But what he's saying is, tell the people, and probably for you too, Stan, get your medical preparations in order. In other words, not only for you and your family, but we're all about to be taking care of a lot of hurting, burned people. That's what nuclear is more than a blast. It's heat, 10,000 degrees. Well, we're about to have a bunch of burned people all around us. And I'm going to continue praying. I'm going to continue asking God to show us, what in the world do you mean, medical, medical? But I will just say this. We need to all be praying medical, medical. Do you have a medical kit? Is your medical kit contain things for burns and injuries? Is your medical kit big enough to help save 5 or 10 people? And that would be just kind of like your family? Okay, because a burn is the worst. It takes the longest to heal. It is the most painful of all injuries, so I'm told. I'm not a medical guy. Most of us that's probably the weakest area of our preparations is medical. We think medical and we think, we need to have some extra prescriptions. No, because treating a burn, I just looked up on it. Man, there's a lot to it. It's difficult. It's painful. And so there you go. Medical, medical. Medical, medical. Ask Jesus into your heart. Repent, stop sinning, and send this out to your friends, my brothers and sisters. This is almost an hour. Longest I've gone on one of these, I think, ever. But I had to have one that was covering all of this story about suitcase nukes, which dovetails into arrests. God bless. Thank you for staying.